All right, let's jump right in with a really tough question. What happens when your vet, the expert you trust, tells you there's nothing more they can do for your animal? It's a devastating moment. Today, we're going to look at what happens next for some owners when they decide to look for another way. I mean, just let this sink in for a second. My usual vet told me to shoot my horse. That's a direct quote from an international endurance rider. Can you even imagine? It's not just a prognosis, it's a death sentence. And for an animal that's both a partner and a top-level athlete, that's just a gut punch.
So yeah, what do you do in that situation? Do you accept it? For the people whose stories we're looking at, the answer was a hard no. They just couldn't accept that verdict. So they started searching. All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with those moments when hope seems totally lost. Then we'll get into the world of performance athletes. From there, we'll look at those frustrating chronic conditions. And we'll wrap up by looking at how people go from being total skeptics to true believers.
Okay, Section 1, when hope seems lost. We're talking about stories where animals were literally given a second chance. And this is where it gets pretty wild. You look at the before and after, and it's just staggering. On one hand, the conventional advice is, put him down, it's time to say goodbye, or he needs this crazy expensive, invasive surgery. But then you look at what the owners reported happened next. That same horse, it successfully completes a 50-mile race. That puppy, it qualifies for the Supreme Championship. The injury is described as good as new. It's this massive, almost unbelievable gap that really tells the story. Here's a great example. A horse named Jeeves. His owner, MT, was told by multiple vets that Jeeves would never even be paddock sound. Now, for non-horse people, that just means he wouldn't even be comfortable enough to just walk around in a field. That's a really low bar. But get this, his owner says that now, at 27 years old, he's still in light work. That's after being told his useful life was completely over. All right, let's move on to Section 2, healing performance athletes. Now we're talking about getting high-value animals back in the game.
So check out this case study. It's a top racehorse, Avanti Express. He pulls a superficial flexor tendon. That's a really common, often career-ending injury for racehorses. The typical route might be surgery and a long, uncertain recovery. But instead, his trainer opted for a holistic vet. The treatment was intense at first, like twice a week for the first couple of weeks. Then it tapered off, once a week, then every 2 weeks, then monthly. And the result? The horse didn't just recover. He came back to win 2 more races. And the owner says there was barely any evidence of the injury left. Pretty incredible.
And this quote from professional event rider Kate Tarrant just nails it. She says, "I wanted a long-term solution, not something that looked okay on the scan for 5 minutes." That's the key, right? It's not about a quick patch-up job. These owners and trainers are looking for something real, something that lasts, something that genuinely fixes the problem, not just hides it. Okay, so it's not always about these huge, dramatic injuries. Let's talk about Section 3, soothing chronic conditions. You know, those persistent, super frustrating ailments. And a big one that comes up a lot is a condition in horses called sweet itch. Now, sweet itch is this miserable skin allergy that makes horses incredibly itchy, to the point where they can rub themselves raw. Owners will try anything and everything for years. So when one owner of some South American polo ponies reported immediate improvement within just 3 days, that's a huge deal. 3 days after trying basically every cream and remedy out there. To see it change that fast is just remarkable. And you see this sentiment echoed by other owners, like Liz Moore here. She's talking about a horse with chronic sweet itch, in all caps. And the result? She says the horse is now turned out with no rug. For anyone who doesn't know, that's everything. These horses often have to live in what look like full-body suits to protect them. So no rug means freedom. It means the rubbing is minimal, the horse's temperament is back to normal, the hair is growing back, as she says, "Need I say more?" And here it is again, just to really drive the point home. This one is from an equine science graduate, so someone with a scientific background. They say Roger's sweet itch injection was the best thing for their pony. It went from being cooped up in sweet itch rugs and sprays to happily living out rugless again. That phrase, rugless again, it's all about restoring quality of life. It's a huge theme in all these stories. Which brings us to the big question. How? How is this happening? What are these treatments? And why do people, who are often pretty skeptical at first, decide to go down this road?
Let's get into it with Section 4, From Skeptic to Believer.
You know, a lot of these stories start with skepticism, and that's totally understandable. This dog owner says it perfectly. I was at first a bit skeptical, but then they put the dog on the tablets, and she's back to being a happier dog. And really, that's all it takes, right? The proof is in the pudding, or in this case, in the happier pet. They're ordering regularly now.
So what's actually in this holistic toolbox? Well, it's a mix of things that are probably not what you'd expect. The testimonials mention stuff like CNR therapy, which is sometimes called a Russian machine. It's this device that interacts with the nervous system. There are quinine marine plasma injections, basically using properties from seawater. You see mentions of bioresonance homeopathy, something called the E-Libra system, natural formulas for things like osteoarthritis, and even DIY raw diets. It's a really eclectic mix of approaches, for sure.
But here's something that comes up again and again, and it might be the most crucial piece of the puzzle. It's not just about the specific machine or injection. Listen to the words these owners use to describe the vet himself. Fantastic, kind, 100% there for us, 100% accurate, the level of care. It seems like the trust they have in the practitioner is just as important, if not more important, than the specific method being used.
So that leaves us with this big final thought. When you hit a dead end with conventional medicine, what is it that really drives you to look for something else? Is it just blind hope? Is it the promise of some new amazing cure? Or is it something deeper? You know, that powerful bond we have with our animals, that feeling that we just have to try everything to know we did all we could. Looking at these stories, it feels like the answer is probably a little bit of all of it.